All right, so today is our sixth and final session. Are you guys sad about this coming to an end, or is it just me?
Yeah, I am.
I am too.
Yeah, because I'm kind of disappointed because I'm like, man, I didn't get the first class.
It's online though.
Yeah, I'm like, I just like getting the feel. I'm like, man, if I wouldn't came the first time, maybe I would have felt a little bit, I don't know, felt closure.
Okay.
Closure.
So we need a parting party.
A parting party? Right. Well, if all goes well, we'll have more sessions like these. It won't be on this topic, but, and we'll have other teachers and things. We'd love to have Danny come and teach a class, and Jamel and some other folks. Xavier, if you wanted to teach a class.
Teach a class. Oh, man. I mean, I'm not on that stand of being apostleship, but you are.
Oh, stop. We've got JP. Maybe we can get him to teach a class.
Why, so I could put people in the corner?
Man, the only thing me and JP gonna teach is anime. That's it.
Anime. Yeah, Ransom will be there for that one.
Ransom and JP, that's the only thing y'all gonna get out of us.
Okay.
We actually, in lieu of fellowship group last night, we changed the topic to anime. So.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah.
See what happens when the adults are not present.
Yes, we did, but that's okay.
Yeah, Ransom, I hear that I need to talk to you because you tried to impersonate me somehow, and I'm not sure how to take that.
The problem is everybody kept saying, Chris, I thought you were out of town. And I had to let them know that, in fact, it was me and not you.
It was that good, was it? Wow. Well, I appreciate you doing that, Ransom. Thank you so much for that.
It was my pleasure. And I would just like to say that you make everything look easy. And that includes not only leading small group, but also everything that you do on Sunday. There were 3 of us trying to figure out to remember how to change the vertical axis of the camera, and 3 of us huddled around the soundboard. So we appreciate you, brother.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys stepping up too, and you guys will have an opportunity to do that again this weekend because I'll be out of town again.
Boy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know. He went on mute.
Yeah, thanks for that warning.
Sorry, I cut out there.
Yeah, right. Wow. Okay. All right. So I'll leave it at that because I don't want to make any promises. All right. So tonight is our 6th and final session. And tonight we're going to be talking about the steamroller tactic. Before we get into our steamroller tactic, let's first. Perfect. Let's
Seems like it should be called anti-steamroller.
anti-steamroller.
Well,
Well,
because it seems like the steamroller is the other person.
I don't know.
You have to do it back.
We'll have to find out if you're right. Oh, you read ahead, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you got the tactics. Oh, okay, you both read ahead.
Exactly. I mean,
All
I
right.
gotta know what you're talking about because I'm sorry, you're up here and I'm down here.
No. I'm right there with you. We're eye to eye on this.
Oh,
On this.
no.
So, so I'm glad you guys read ahead. So you guys, we can switch space. I'll sit over there. You guys can sit here. No takers. No. All right. Well, fine. All right. So again, to give credit where credit is due, the materials we'll be covering this semester, all of the materials we've covered this semester have come from Greg Koukl's book titled Tactics, a Game Plan for Discussing Your Christian Conviction. Greg, again, is the founder and president of Stand to Reason, which is and he's a fantastic Christian apologist. I mentioned last week, along with the great reading materials available on like Tactics, Greg and his team have additional training through Stand to Reason. They have a thing called Stand to Reason University, which is a free online class, and they're always adding new courses to it. It's great. There's short videos and then a short quiz. So I would strongly recommend you guys checking that out on all kinds of topics, and including tactics. And the parts that we've covered here in class, you guys will probably just be able to zip right through those and answer it with 100% accuracy because you are all A+ students. But they've been absolutely fantastic, and I would strongly recommend going on their website, checking them out. Once again, don't ever forget, we have a Christianity worth thinking about. All right, so now that that's out of the way, legal disclosure. Let's start with our demonstrating mastery. Let's see how much you guys have retained from last week. So first up, briefly describe the tactic of taking the roof off and why it works. Who wants to take a stab at that one?
Is you say describe the taking,
Yes, briefly describe the taking the roof off tactic and why it works.
what the person's viewpoint for the sake of argument, pressing to the logical and say consequence of the view, and built your own upset. I don't know. I got lots of rope. The agenda, taking a roof off. Some views lead to unacceptable conclusions.
Mhm.
Recognize those views and how to reduce them to the absurd consequences. Man-made in God's image makes this tactic possible. We'll look at some specific examples.
Okay.
You've got a lot of it.
But you're talking about adopt the other person's viewpoint.
There you go. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said at
For the
first.
sake of
Right.
argument. For the sake of argument.
Right.
That's what it says.
That's it.
This is, okay, give this idea a test drive.
Right. So you start off.
And determine what about what she said, that how take it to its most ridiculous sometimes conclusion.
Take it to
That's
where
my-
it logically
that's my-
leads.
Yeah, that's my problem. I'm going, having a clue
Well,
on how to,
right.
go from what they said to drawing it out to the.
Right. And that's why it takes some thought. You guys, while they're, if you haven't heard these views in the past, then you need to take what they say and then just kind of play it out. Okay, so if that's the case, where does this lead? Where do we get there? Hello.
Hey, welcome.
We're just getting started. Yesterday too? Are you saying Ransom was late starting? Oh, all right. I'm gonna have to talk to this fella.
Nah,
Actually, he wasn't late.
no, he was actually spot on.
I was technically like 1 minute late because I got on at the time, but I forgot to do the thing where I sign into your account and whatnot. So I was like 1 or 2 minutes late.
Oopsie.
All right. Nobody's telling on you here, Ransom.
I love that, what they call it.
Those are my boys.
And I like the Latin, like that reductio
Reductio ad absurdum.
absurdum. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and that's reducing it to the absurd is
Yeah.
the way it translates
Yeah.
into English. Yeah.
All right, too many words. I got it. I'm like, let me
He's one of those five syllable people too.
Oh, really? He was using some $5 words? No, I'm sorry I missed it.
Big words, I've never heard of them.
Okay,
$5.
Yeah.
interesting.
She's too young to know that idiom.
$5 words.
word. 'Cause
I'm,
it'd be more like the $20 word now. When we
Oh,
grew up, it was
yeah.
only $5. That
With-
doesn't sound like that big deal. Now it's big.
with inflation, sure.
Yeah.
Cost of living, yeah.
$5 is a lot of
Oh,
money.
I thought it was password or something.
No, that was, learned people use $5 words. That's what, when I was growing up, that's what they called it.
Mhm.
Words that you don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Right. All right. So the answer to the question, briefly describe taking the roof off tactic and why it works, is adopt the other person's viewpoint for the sake of argument, and then you press it to the logical and absurd consequences of their view. All right. Next one. All right. And you've already got this one. Another tactic is, and hint, it's a Latin.
Asking about
Reductio ad absurdum. And you guys,
fish sandwich. Was it good?
And that's what I had to do.
What?
The little
What do you
word,
mean?
really sounds like Harry Potter.
What? Oh, I didn't say that quick at all.
I love Harry Potter, but
For the chicken,
right,
they
right.
gave you a chicken sandwich to call it a fish sandwich. That's messed up.
Who's talking about chicken and fish sandwiches?
I think it's Preston.
Why'd you
Preston,
ask me if I'd gone
you.
back there in 30 days? Oh,
Preston, are you making a food order? We can hear you if you are.
Chicken and fish, chicken and fish.
We should all shout Preston on the count of 3.
Right. All right. Okay, next question. List 3 steps of employing this tactic. What are the 3 steps to employ this tactic?
Reduce upon a view to the basic premise, assertion, principle, or moral rule. Give the idea, test drive, and see where it goes by asking. And then invite the person to think about the implication of this view if it were really true.
Very good.
She takes great notes.
I know both of these guys. Thank you both for that. So in case you guys didn't hear that, the first one is reduce the point of view to its basic premise, assertion, or principle, or moral rule. Step 2 is give the idea a test drive and see where it goes. And then 3 is invite the other person to think about the implications of this view if it were really true. All right, next up, explain why the taking the roof off tactic works. Give it a try. Let's see what you got.
Is the way they should be. I don't know. Seems if it's not occurring, then it shouldn't be. Because it's natural.
Yeah, those are pieces of it.
I think when you take something to its absurd point, then the other person begins to realize the absurdity of it.
Absolutely.
Is that when you adopt the other person's viewpoint for the sake of the argument?
That was the 3 steps. Mhm.
Taking the roof off works because humans are made in the image of God and must live in the world God created.
Look at you reading the book.
I'm cheating. I know I'm cheating. It's an open book test, wasn't it?
That's true.
You betcha. I
Right.
can't find anything in my notes. I mean, I give up. I missed the point 99 and 9/10%.
You knew where to find it in the book.
Even at pastors' sermons, I said, you know, when we're gonna study them,
Mhm.
and I go back to the notes for that, I'm going, was I in a different church? I'm going,
Right.
that's why I'm saying, taking it from this point to this.
But you have so much more information, your kind of interpretation, and you can go back and look at the book and reinforce. So, you know, I wouldn't stop taking notes. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
All right. So this tactic works because non-Christians live in a contradictory world that creates points of tension between what they say they believe and what's actually true. Humans have erected a defense, a subconscious self-deception or a roof to protect them from considering the consequences of their belief. Our goal is to remove that roof and expose the fraud and deprive them of their false sense of security gently, lovingly, firmly. All right. So now the bonus question. Has anyone had the opportunity to use their tactics over the last week?
I talk to my dogs. They don't talk like they talk. Except then, woof, woof, and I can't understand dogs.
Mm.
I can't say if I have or haven't, since I just really haven't, little bit of the last part, not understanding it. So like I say, I have to, sometimes I'm not always good in a classroom setting. I literally have to give up myself so I can focus and think. Because where I could use to do that, I can't do it because, you know, things have changed. So I'm probably gonna have to get to myself in order to understand probably the last couple of sessions.
She hasn't because she was dealing with her party.
Actually, I just started dealing with that today.
You've been letting other people deal with it.
When is your actual birthday? Is it this weekend?
It's Saturday.
Fantastic. Happy
On the
almost
19th.
birthday.
March the 19th.
All right. So anybody on the phone? Is anybody on the phone tried to use their tactics since last we talked? Even if it was, as Mrs. Johnson said, listening to somebody else, in the news or something and having those questions go through their mind.
The only, usually I'm by myself up until Sunday.
Sunday is where you really need it, JP.
No, Sunday is the only time I can use my tactics, but there's a room full of people that's trying to use their tactics on me.
Right. So one of the ways that you get good at using the tactics is to practice. Yeah. If you want to be good at doing that, then yeah, you got to look for opportunities to put them to use. All right, so let's get into it. Let's review. In the last session we covered, we learned the tactic called taking the roof off. And first we learned to adopt the other person's viewpoint for the sake of argument. And next we learned the value of pressing them to the logical and absurd consequences of their view. And then we learned the 3 steps to employ the tactic. First, reduce the viewpoint to its basic premise. Second, give the idea a test drive to determine if any absurd consequences result, and when we consistently apply this view. And then third, we invite the person to consider the implications of their view and the truth that follows from the reductio. Next, we also learned why tactics work. And again, that's humans are made in the image of God, and we must live in the world God created. Every person who denies this lives in a contradiction that creates a point of tension. And to protect themselves, humans have erected self-deception or a roof to shield themselves from the logical implications of their belief. And we try to remove that roof and deprive them of their false sense of security. And then finally, we learned a number of ways to apply this tactic to specific challenges. And in this session, we'll cover the steamroller tactic, and we'll learn how to recognize a steamroller, and it's not hard to do. And then we'll learn 3 stops or 3 ways to stop the steamroller and put you back in control of the conversation. All right, so first up, the steamroller, it's a defensive tactic. And steamrollers are people who try to overwhelm you. Steamrollers have strong opinions and strong personalities. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure we all do. They keep you off balance and on the defensive by overwhelming you with a lot of attitude and a lot of noise. And their words come fast and furious and keep you from collecting your wits and giving you a thorough, thoughtful answer. Guys, just a minute for that. And I'm sure as soon as I said that, you guys were like, oh, I know somebody like that. All right, let's look at how steamrollers operate. Steamrollers have one defining characteristic. They interrupt constantly. They will cut you off before you can respond to their challenge. And as soon as you begin to answer, the steamrollers find something they didn't like in your explanation, interrupt you, and then pile on more challenges. Then you try to respond again, and they only interrupt you again. And the steamroller continues to fire questions, constantly interrupting, even changing the subject, overwhelming you, and never listening to anything you have to say. If this description sounds familiar, you have been steamrolled before. Steamrollers are also insincere. Steamrollers know it's easier to ask hard questions than to listen to hard answers. Steamrollers are usually not interested in your answers, but in winning through intimidation. So would anyone like to share an experience they've had with a steamroller? What was it like? How did it make you feel? And how did you deal with it?
I was married to one for 40 years. Well, it's the truth.
Okay.
He was a very aggressive, type man, and I eventually just stopped talking about religion with him because, you know, he just made me flat.
Wow, he steamrolled you, huh?
Yeah, he, no matter what I would say, he would, he would just pile on, and so I finally
Just gave up.
yeah, just,
Man, that's a shame.
yeah, I know, but there wasn't any change in his mind kind of person,
That does happen. Yeah, sometimes.
just, yeah, he had lots of baggage that he came with, and
Well, we all have baggage.
yeah, but I'm, religious, Christian people issue, dealing, it just, and so just. It was-
There are a lot of people out there who will blame that baggage for their lack of belief or their pushback or something like that. And
Right,
I think some of that's probably true, but I think a lot of it is they just want to live by their own rules,
yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
are just looking
He-
for an
He
excuse.
was definitely his own man,
Mhm.
which, I mean, he was a great provider, and he loved me dearly and took good care of me, but when it came to changing his mind about anything.
Anybody else want to share an experience with a steamroller?
I mean, it's a general personality,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily in the context of religion, I'm discussing that.
Right.
I could say that people that never really interacted too much with, like, oh my gosh, what are people that believe Muslims,
Okay.
those kind of conversations that you, but not from the steamroller, just for this is my view, and I don't want to hear anything else, but not necessarily, we just got into it.
Right. Yeah. Do you know who David Wood is? No, he's an apologist. He's another apologist. Again, I dork out about this stuff. But his focus is primarily on Muslims. And I've seen him interact with Muslims who do their very best to steamroll right over him. And it's that same kind of thing where they'll question after question after question. And then as soon as he responds to a question of theirs, they've got another question and they're like, haha, you can't answer it. And
What was
it's
his name again?
David Wood. Yeah. And David Wood he's a really interesting guy, and he's actually a psychopath. And he tried to kill his father.
Oh,
He's got a crazy story. If you ever look up his testimony, it's really interesting. It's about a half-hour video, and he walks through what he does. But he's come to Christ since then, and he still suffers as a psychopath. And as a psychopath, it just means that you can't, you don't have normal feelings towards other people, or you don't have any feelings at all.
Yeah.
You're just indifferent to everybody. And now he's married and has kids. So,
wow.
it's a struggle for him to deal with some of these things, but, he's a really interesting guy. But after having become an apologist, he goes out into the Muslim community and he witnesses to Muslims and tries to help them see Christianity is true and that Islam is false. So really interesting guy. So if you guys are ever interested in that kind of stuff, check him out.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating guy. Yeah. All right. So
Oh, yeah, I'm just listening. Just listening. No, this.
Okay, yeah, I saw that where it said they are insincere.
Mhm.
What, I didn't exactly understand.
So them being insincere is they probably don't really care what answers you have.
Oh, okay.
They
So
just more
they-
interested in
they-
winning their
they-
argument.
They ask you questions, but they don't really want the answer.
Yeah, they don't care what the
Okay,
answer is.
okay,
Yeah,
so
you can have a great answer, but it doesn't matter.
Okay,
They're still going to try to run all over you, and they're more interested in making you look dumb than them actually having the questions answered. And there are times when you have, well, we'll get more into it. All right. So here are 3 different ways for dealing with a steamroller. First, stop the interruption graciously but firmly, then negotiate an agreement. So here's what I mean by that. Many times, all you need to do is simply hold your hand up and gently say, I'm not quite finished. When they start interrupting you, just hang on a second. Let me finish. And if necessary, ask for adequate time by saying, hold on a minute, I need a little more time. You asked a good question and you deserve an answer. Are you interested in what I have to say? Sometimes confronting people like that, it will help them recognize that they're trying to be a steamroller.
Yeah, I gotta read the book.
Yeah, definitely read the book. If the steamroller is especially aggressive, calmly wait for a clear opening. Don't try to talk over him or her if they're not cooperating. Basically, you're asking them to give you something, patience, so that you can give them something in return, a chance to respond to their question or challenge. And then let's look at a few examples of the first step in this steamroller tactic. Okay, so you can stop and say, is it okay with you if I take a few minutes to answer your concerns before you ask another question? I'll give you a chance to respond when I get done. And then this is what it looks like when you're asking for an agreement. And they say, yeah, okay. So then you hold them to it. All right, you said you could give me a minute. Let me respond, and then you can answer. And then we need to make sure that we have that follow-up by allowing them to respond afterwards. Another way to respond to that is, I know you have a lot of questions, but I need a moment to explain myself. Is that okay? Again, you're looking for that agreement with them. Another one could be, let me respond to your first challenge, and when I'm done, you can jump in again. And again, confirm with them, is that okay? And then finally, another example is, that's a good question and it deserves a decent answer. I need a moment to give you one. Is that okay? And then once you have that agreement with them, they should kind of back off and allow you to at least finish what you have to say.
If they're true steamrollers. No.
This is only step 1. Okay.
I say walk off.
Just walk off.
That's 3.
Yeah.
That'd be my first, second, and third. Man, I ain't got time.
Well, as an ambassador of Christ, should that be the attitude we have?
No, I mean, I don't want that to be, but
That really
like I
shouldn't be
say,
our first.
it really should be my first one, but like I said, my tolerance is like, all right, you don't really want to listen, so all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of us, yeah. Who is it that says this? Somebody says they don't suffer fools well. And
I've heard that before. I don't know who it was.
a lot of people use that term, and sometimes it drives me a little bit nuts when people use it because, again, when we're talking to somebody, especially about Christianity, the Bible says that in their ears, it's foolishness. So we think what they're saying is foolishness, but they've got that view of us too. You know, let me help this uneducated Christian explain how things really are. It's probably what they're coming at it.
We're living in a fantasy world.
They think we are.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we need to have patience with them. Typically. All right.
The P word.
Yeah, the P word. Yeah, patience. That's right. And, you know, I've said this before and
Unfortunately, that's not capital P.
yeah, but I've said this in other formats, but, you know, we need to remember too, that patience is a lesson to be learned. It's not a gift to be given. So when you ask God for patience, he's probably going to give you opportunities where you need to exercise patience.
Be careful.
Yes.
What you ask.
Right. So just,
Definitely.
Yeah, now I know what people meant. I know when I said that in a Bible class before, and they said, what do you want from God? I said, I asked God for patience. And they all looked at me like, you asked him for what?
yeah,
I was like, what is the big deal? Ain't you supposed to ask for patience? Like, I know you didn't ask
Yeah.
him for patience.
Cause he gonna.
Well-
And it was all older people.
Right.
They was all older people. They just turned around, like, you asked him for what?
No.
Hey, I do too.
Yeah, there's
I'm
nothing,
sorry, I do.
yeah, there's
Like, 'cause
absolutely,
mine is horrible.
yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for patience. Just be aware that you're gonna get opportunities. Yes, you're gonna get
And how do
opportunities.
you learn patience?
Yeah. All right.
Use it.
So going back to this, be sure that you respond adequately to the first issue before you're forced to tackle another issue. Taking one thing at a time is always helpful. You know, if they're trying to use the machine gun question tactic where they're just firing stuff at you left and right, pick one, stick with it till it's done, and then move on to the next one. So when you've made your point, ask your friend to acknowledge your response. You can ask them a question like, is that a fair answer to your question? Or does that sound plausible to you? Again, just making sure that they're with you and not just, they're actually listening to your response and not just waiting for their turn to speak. Okay? And don't take unfair advantage of the time that you've negotiated either. You know, don't just go on and on and on and on, hoping that they'll get bored and walk away. So make sure that you make your point.
You figured out my tactic.
Yeah, well, I know. Greg had you in mind when he wrote this. All right, so make sure that you make your point and then let them, you know, continue on the conversation. And don't become a steamroller yourself is really, you know, don't try to turn the tables and steamroll the other person. Make sure they have a fair chance. All right, so let's have a little fun. All right, I'm going to ask you a question, and while you're answering it, I'm going to try to steamroll you. I would like whoever's volunteering to try using step one to slow it down. All right, now I haven't practiced this, so I don't know how this is going to work.
Uh-oh.
So who wants to give this a shot?
Ransom does.
Ransom does? Ransom, are you volunteering? He's conveniently on mute.
You're gonna be the steamroller.
I'm going to try to be the steamroller.
Mm.
You want to give it a try?
Chris, the steamroller?
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be good at it. Okay, sure.
All right. So just going to ask you a question. What's your favorite football team and why?
Oh my gosh, really?
Mhm.
No, it's Cowboys.
Why?
Probably because my dad.
Yeah, but have you seen their uniform? I mean, it's white and silver or something. Why would that? I certainly have, and it's white and silver, and that's I don't understand why you would like the Cowboys with the uniform like that.
Oh, you want me to explain?
Yes, I would love to.
You really want to?
Yeah, and have you seen their cheerleaders too? How scantily clad they are? Ah, there was no modesty.
I thought you were gonna let me explain.
I'm steamrolling you.
I only asked the question to see if they're sincere. You did say that, and then. Ask them if they really want to know.
Right. Ask them if they really want to know, and then negotiate too. So, now, wait a minute. You asked me a question.
Yes, I'm
Right.
ready for the negotiation.
Give me a minute.
All right.
There we go. All right, now, don't get stuck in my voice. That is perfect. Because that happens all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally. So that tactic can be used in a spiritual sense as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and one thing too, and we mentioned this in one of the earlier sessions too, is don't use tactics on your spouse or significant other,
Yeah, okay.
because sometimes
Don't use tactics on them, but they're good stuff. Why would you want
they
to?
are, but they can be used abusively.
We have to practice.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Certain spouses, you ain't gonna win.
I wish I
Right.
had these tactics. I might have won an argument.
One in the
Once.
counseling session, see that they say that.
I usually call my husband the silver tongued devil.
Oh, really?
So I'm not gonna do it with him.
Oh, okay.
He'd run around me 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of interesting. Both of you have said that your husbands are kind of not people you would have wanted to argue or discuss
Right,
with.
Yeah, I'm not good at it anyway, but with
Mhm.
him,
No.
How does it work with the parents? How does it work with the parents?
Doing it with love and graciousness. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Right. No, don't body slam your parents. No,
Define
no.
your definition of love. Is it going upside their head when they get smart? Or like-
No, that doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, because my grandmother had
Right.
a bad left, and that was a force to be reckoned with when
Mhm.
you were being disrespectful or something, and for somehow or another, I didn't pick it up until later on. Of course, I'm right-handed, so, but,
So if you had tried to stop her steamrolling, you figured it wouldn't have.
it wasn't gonna have to try, I wasn't gonna even.
That's what I'm
I didn't
saying.
even thought, I wasn't gonna even think it. The thought,
Yeah.
even the thought would have got me hit.
Right.
She would have taken it as being disrespectful.
Ask Darren,
Yeah.
Darren, he felt that iron left, probably once or twice, and I know
Right.
one time he
Yeah.
did.
Oh,
Yeah, he
yeah.
balled his fist up at her, so
That's
that was like a.
Oh, yeah, you don't do that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was like a whole, I felt sorry for that child that day,
Well,
but, you know.
That
it-
should have been a lesson learned.
Yeah, so, I think anything after then, he probably was thinking it in his head and wasn't standing close or even thinking it.
Right,
You know,
right.
so, yeah, like, I don't know, I guess it, so to speak, with parenting too, because sometimes it can be hard to just like grab that patience
Right.
with the child.
Now,
you know.
everybody's different, and we should definitely respect our parents. Yeah. All right, so anybody else?
Have we steamrolled you enough?
you did very good.
Thank you.
See,
Does anybody else want to give this a
You don't
try?
wanna try it because doesn't have the patience, so you gotta learn the patience. You wanna try it.
Okay.
All right, Xavier, just
Okay.
Wanna give it a go?
Is Xavier gonna do it?
all right, remember, we're just trying to learn step number one.
Like, I mean, I already know we practicing, so I'm not really actually gonna blow a gasket. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
blow a
don't-
gasket in real life, no.
Please don't hit me. I'm frail.
Nah, like, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'll
Okay.
fight when I had to.
All
I
right.
even like doing that.
All right, so Xavier, do you think the world, of course you agree that the world is billions of years old, don't you?
Yes, I believe that. So, I believe that.
But don't you Christians believe that the world is only 6,000 years old? Isn't that in your Bible?
I mean, you can go and read Genesis.
Oh,
Yeah,
It'll
but-
tell you- it'll tell
Yeah,
you.
Genesis, it says it's 6,000 years old. Why don't you believe that?
But it doesn't necessarily,
If it's beginning to end. If you read these begats, there's only 6,000 begats there.
begats.
Begats.
Matthew, but yeah, this person.
Yeah.
That person.
This is-
You're not.
Watch, you're gonna go, hold your hand up.
He's trying to go straight to the conversation, straight to the debate. None of the taxes, 1, 2, or 3.
Well, Xavier, I'm not sure you believe what you think you believe.
It's so man.
The begats.
I'm. Nah. Doing it, nah.
Yeah.
I got a whole lot of work to do. Nah, 'cause-
But remember, we're just trying step one.
yeah, I'm just
And
saying,
step one
like,
is,
I like,
Step 1.
now honestly thinking about it, like,
What is step one?
yeah, what is step one?
Hold your hand up, and go, wait a minute.
Stop the interruption.
I need to write that down.
Yeah, yeah,
I need to write that down.
right. But you can see that it can be kind of overwhelming when somebody's coming at you like that.
Right, one question.
And our natural impulse is, all right, let me answer this. And then, when more stuff is
When you-
avalanching on top
get
of you.
One word out or two words out and then they're
Right.
dumping another one on you.
Right.
Wait a minute, this first thing about your person.
Yeah, exactly.
So far, we haven't done too good with it.
That's why we're practicing it.
Because he said he was practicing here. I'm like, I was asking, that's what you told me.
Yep. You did fantastic.
I did horrible.
Okay.
We went straight to the debate.
Because the reason being,
Yeah, and he knew what, he knew just what, back to Genesis.
Back to Genesis.
And you know, that's his favorite baby.
but the reason being, because me and my friends, like, at work, like, we really go at it.
Mhm.
Like, when it comes to sports, or really sports, honestly, sports. So it doesn't get like horribly bad, but it gets intense where we're really heated on facts, numbers, everything.
Right.
So for a male's point of view, it can get pretty intense.
Okay. And that's okay. So we're learning how to kind of negotiate that.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So Miss Debbie, did you have your hand raised?
We're gonna do another one?
Millions, billions, zillions?
Millions of years old. Who's been around for millions?
Yes.
All right.
There we go.
Okay.
Step number 1.
So the question I have for you, Miss Debbie, is which president should be on Mount Rushmore that currently is not, and why?
Obama.
Are you kidding me? Obama? I mean, he was 2 terms,
Oh,
but
hold on, you didn't let me finish. Can't, you gotta stop giving me these questions and. let me
But
finish.
why? Can't you defend the question?
Because I want you to stop interrupting me.
So does that mean you don't have an answer to the question?
I might.
You just, the first name out of the air was Obama, and you don't have a real reason for that?
Yes, but you won't hush long enough to let me get it.
Fight words. Fight words. Catch me outside.
Yeah,
Catch me.
Please, can we negotiate this?
there you go. There you go.
This answer,
Right.
question and answer?
Right, you're doing a good job in trying to say, hey, wait, just hold on a second. But there's that follow-up too, where you're like, all right, well, do you really want to answer this question or not? Because if you're not, then I'll just let you talk. But if you want to hear a response, then you got to give me a minute, and then I'll give you time to respond.
Right.
Is that okay?
No.
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 No, just I decided already I don't want to talk to
I don't
you.
want to
So
talk to you.
right.
That's step 3. You're out
You
there.
did. You
We haven't
did.
got there yet. We haven't got there yet. Don't jump ahead.
I don't want to
Don't
talk
you-
to you no more.
But you can see how, this tactic would come in
They
handy.
get you caught up in it.
Oh, sure.
That's.
And again, when somebody's
They suck you in under the tires.
right. Normally, when somebody's pushing on you, we have a tendency to want to push back. And, that's just natural defenses. Right. So we use our little hapkido and learn how to redirect the force they're applying. All right. So what do you guys think about that? How did we do in general?
We suck.
We need a lot more practice.
I need the book so I can read and understand it more, because my whole aggression was about to start coming, like thinking about it, because going back and
But
forth.
it isn't that, it's not necessarily male.
I mean,
Women are,
I know women can be aggressive, but like just speaking as for a man's point of view, it's how can I portray it?
they're always on the offensive.
It is different. It is different, honestly. And like, I know women can get aggressive, like, and I'm not counting that out, but for a male's point of view, it's like, we like get up there.
Because if he's in the other room, if he's in one room playing the game and he hears somebody say something off about God or the Bible, that is when he will literally stop and say, what did you just say? No, what did you, like, that's when he'll actually stop and just come
That's
out
impressive,
there
Ed.
and be like, what did you just, you done lost your mind.
And that's okay. That's okay. But I can tell you
get
just,
about that. I'm like, oh, wait. I'm like, we ain't gonna blame God on that. I mean, I know he don't need my help, but
Good for you.
bothers me.
Step back, step
good
back.
for you. Absolutely. And this is kind of a side, but since you brought up the whole male and aggression thing, I was with my lovely daughter, just frail little wonderful peaceful princess of a daughter,
Mhm.
and she was driving somewhere, and we were at a gas station, and she started going around the corner, and another woman was coming this way, and there wasn't enough room for 2 cars to get through there. I didn't think so, but this woman was on her phone, and she kept coming, and I said, I don't think you're going to make it to my daughter. And she goes, I have the right of way. I'm going anyway. So I'm thinking, I get it if that was a man thing. This is my little girl. What are you doing? She gets behind the wheel, and all of a sudden,
Godzilla comes.
No, she didn't. But one of her favorite terms is, Dad, no one died.
Are you?
Well,
Well, I'm just that far to a heart attack.
Yeah.
That's the way my daughter was before she started driving. But now that she's driving, when she took me to the hospital that day, I promise you, she was like, man, Mom, I see why you was, why are you in my way? Can you get out of my way? And so she was just like,
Right.
I was like, wow. So now we're road raging. It used to be, she's like, but Mom, he's not even supposed to, he's in the wrong lane driving. Like, I was like, okay.
Right.
I was like, Asia, it's okay. It's okay. She's like, Mom, you said it's okay. You be the first one.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So I was like,
Right.
but yeah, I needed to make it to the doctor that day. So
Right.
I was like,
Right.
Asia, they're road raging like crazy, killing people like crazy and shooting at people like, come on now, because that morning, I think she was actually upset because of what had happened to me the day before, and she just wanted to get there to
Right.
see what was going on
Right.
or whatnot. But because that day she had zero filter for what was going on those roads. So
Right.
like
So aggression is not.
she's very aggressive. She's
Yeah.
very aggressive that day, yeah.
She used to be gentle.
She was
Yeah.
very gentle
Used to
growing
be.
up, but now she's like I tell people, they ask for a little girl, and I say they're more of my daughter's more of a knucklehead than her brothers now. Like Darren, always he would always hit her just out of nowhere to make her fight or whatnot,
Mhm.
because she was so humble as a child. But now, no.
You hit if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
hopefully with her studying what she's studying, the psychology and and all of that, but she's gotten a little bit better, but yeah, it's gonna
Good.
take a little bit more work.
Good. Okay, so quick ambassador tip. When you face an aggressive challenger, it's okay to give them the last word. Not only is it the gracious thing to do, but it's a powerful conveying of deep sense of confidence in your own view when you let them have the last word. Instead of fighting for the last word, give it away. Make your concluding point clearly and succinctly, and then say, I'll let you have the last word, and then don't break the promise. Grant them their parting shot and let it rest. Just let it go. All right. So let's look at step number 2. The first step was stop the interrupting graciously but firmly, and then negotiate an agreement. The second step is to shame the steamroller. So let me explain what I mean by that. If the steamroller breaks trust with your first agreement, or maybe you can't succeed in stopping them to briefly negotiate, you need to be more aggressive. Shame them by taking the same approach you did in step number 1, but be more direct in addressing the bad manners. Ask very explicitly for courtesy in your conversation. Make sure you are calm when you do it, though. It will do you no good if you come across annoying at this point. So ignore his new challenges. Don't follow the rabbit trail. Instead, address the steamroller problem directly. You could say something like, I need to know if you really want an answer from me. I assume you asked the question because you wanted a response, but I could be wrong. You keep interrupting. Which is it? So again, you're kind of throwing it in their face and, hey, look, you're kind of being rude here and you're not letting me answer. Do you want an answer or not? Another response could be, could I ask you a favor? I'd love to respond to your concern, but I can't because you keep interrupting. Could I have a few moments to develop my point without being cut off? Then you can tell me what you think. Is that okay with you? Here's another one. Can I ask you a quick question? I need to know whether you want an answer to your challenge or if you just want to talk. When you keep interrupting me, I get the impression you don't really want an answer. If all you want is an audience, just let me know and then I'll listen. But if you want an answer, you will have to give me time to respond. Which do you want? I need to know before we continue. And then one last one. Here's what I have in mind. You ask your question or make your point, and I'll listen. When you're done, it will be my turn to be polite and let you have your say. And I need to know if that's okay with you. If this is not okay, then our conversation is over. What would you like to do? Oops, went ahead a bit. Okay, so next return to the Steamroller's original challenge and then deal with it. Now that your challenge, as I understand it, is this, and then repeat the question. And here's how I would like to respond. And then you can wrap up with the rest of your answer. And then finally, don't be snippy or smug. Stay focused, pleasant, and gracious while in control.
But that gets harder and harder.
Oh, yeah,
Stay
absolutely.
pleasant.
Sure, absolutely. If someone's being
People's handwriting.
ugly with you, it's natural to want to get ugly back. You know, it's the hit back game.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
But that doesn't make us very good ambassadors.
No, you're right. You're right. When you claim to be a Christian, you're carrying the name of Christ with you. So remember that. Keep that in mind. Okay. So another ambassador quick tip. Some of these examples can seem aggressive. If you started out this way, you would come off as belligerent and rude. At the same point, though, a direct approach is the only thing that will save the conversation. And remember, steamrollers are strong and aggressive, and sometimes they must be answered in kind. So it's the kind of the idea is sometimes you need to use force with force. But I would not recommend jumping over step one and going right to step two. Start with step one, and if you still can't do it, up it a little bit. All right.
Also, I don't think he says this, but it would make sense to me if you can keep your voice.
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
raise your voice while your tendency when somebody's badgering you is to raise your voice.
Right.
It works a whole lot better if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes that's kind of what they want out of you. They want to get a rise out of you. You know, so definitely take, your voice modulation into concern. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a volume thing. Attitude can come across in lower volumes too. So yeah, it's a good tip. All right, so now let's look at step 3. Step 1, stop the interruption graciously but firmly, and then negotiate the agreement. Step 2, if that doesn't work, shame the steamroller. And then if that still doesn't work, step 3, leave the steamroller. And we kind of talked about this a little. When all else fails, leave the steamroller. If they won't let you answer, if they don't want to listen politely, or just listen to them, and when they're finished, just drop it. Let them have the satisfaction of having the last word, and then politely end the conversation and walk away. Wisdom dictates not wasting your time with this kind of person. There are people who just, again, want to pepper you with all kinds of answers to make you feel stupid or to look stupid, and they don't necessarily want answers, and that's their end game. So don't waste time with these people.
Well, Jesus said, "Don't cast your pearls before swine."
Well, since you stole my thunder, Jesus said, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs." This is Matthew 7:6.
Yeah, but swine sounds so much better.
Yeah. If we were looking at the original King James, it would be swine.
That's the one I remember.
So how do you know when to speak and when to keep the pearls to yourselves? Bless you.
Oh, excuse me.
I think if you're paying
Got
attention,
my allergies cracking up.
it doesn't take too long to realize when somebody is agitating as opposed to really wanting an answer. I mean, you can tell by their demeanor, by their inflection, by, when
Well,
they're
not-
talking over you,
Mhm.
all of
Yeah,
that
all
tells
the-
you, do they
If
really
they keep
want-
interrupting, even when they say they won't, or, or if they say no, then you go, well, you're not gonna listen to me.
Right.
You have already formed your opinion, for whatever reason, just pigheadedness or whatever,
Right.
Was that prejudice? It was- No, they were
Body language sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if they start
Emotional
crossing up on you.
reasons, Prejudice. Or. Anyway. Just cause.
Yeah, just because they don't want to. Yeah, so there's definitely a time when when you're just gonna have to walk away. Say, I can tell that you just want to have your say.
They like to argue.
Yeah, and they get real frustrated when you want to argue back. Yeah. And that's okay. Let them. All right. So interestingly, in the second half of this verse, it says, if you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. So again, this is, don't cast your pearls before the swine. We should be generous with the truth unless we encounter someone who shows utter contempt for the precious gift being offered. If the one you're talking with is the kind of person who will take what is holy and trample on it, and then turn on you, don't waste your time. There are other people out there who will be more respectful and will be a better use of your time. All right, so here's what we have covered today. That went way too quick, but all right. We learned how to recognize the steamroller. Steamrollers will overpower you with their strong personalities, and steamrollers will interrupt you constantly. Then we learned 3 steps to deal with a steamroller and put you back in control of the conversation. Step 1 is stop him. Stop the interruption graciously but firmly, then negotiate an agreement. Step 2 is shame him. Ask him in a very direct way for courtesy. And then step 3 is leave him. Let him have the last word and then let it go. Anybody have any questions about the steamroller?
I got a whole lot of work to do.
We all do.
We all do. That's
We all
right.
do.
Yeah.
I mean,
This is a learning process.
yeah, and having the head knowledge, I think there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. And one of the ways that I make the delineation between the two is knowledge is kind of the head knowledge and the wisdom is the application of it. So you have the knowledge. Now to get that wisdom, you need to apply it and actually use it in your day-to-day life. So, these are all great theories and concepts and all that kind of stuff, but until you actually put it in practice, it's just going to be that. It's just going to be head knowledge.
Can I ask an odd question? It
An
seems to
odd
me that-
question?
Yeah, from the beginning, they typically are talking about somebody challenges you first. Somebody else starts the conversation. What if we want to be the one who starts the conversation? How's the best way to start it?
Ask him Columbo number 1.
Okay,
Yeah, if you remember,
what do you believe or?
well, you can pick up different cues. And if you remember in our first session, Greg shared a story of he was talking to somebody at a photo counter, and this young lady had a pentagram necklace on.
Yeah, I know that.
And he said, hey, that necklace, does it have any religious significance to you? And turns out that she was a Wiccan. And he was able to get into the conversation just by asking a question like that. So absolutely, you can start the conversation. Just ask them.
Pick a thing, huh?
Yeah, it could be, Xavier, if somebody says something about God during, one of his gaming sessions, ask him a question about that. What do you mean by that? How did you come to that conclusion?
I think that's the biggest thing that you've been doing is that you want to, instead of getting on the defense or feeling like you need to offer an answer, you need to understand where the other person's coming from first so that you are on the page to address that. And then remember the reason why you're doing it. That's
Absolutely.
the biggest thing. It's like, oh, there's no God. Okay. And before you get all like, yes, there is. What do you mean by that? Or why do you think that?
Mhm.
The first step.
Or what do
Instead
you
of jumping into it.
What do you
Or,
mean by God?
Right.
That's the hardest thing because you are automatically going to want to defend your belief.
Yeah.
And instead, to get them on the page where they're even listening, you need to understand where they got that from, or why they believe that, and maybe that becomes the dialogue.
Yeah, and that's so important because there are some people who will just offer a platitude, hoping that you'll just go away. So asking those questions will help you understand if this is really something they believe or is it just something they heard, and it will engage them in a different way. So absolutely asking these questions.
But I do have a question about what you just said.
Uh-oh.
So you just got some people in this world that just are not okay with niceness.
Mhm.
And so what do you do with those who attack, who physically attack you?
Physically?
Yeah, yes,
Oh,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's not really a tactic situation, but
There's no tactic for that, right?
well, there is.
Run.
Run, oh no.
Yeah.
No run.
I'm a
Karate is good.
yeah, well, I'm a strong believer in Bruce Lee's response to, what's the best way to avoid a punch? Don't be there. So, if somebody's going to start swinging at you, go somewhere else. If somebody's going to be aggressive and physically aggressive, don't be around them. Go someplace else. If they're going to attack you, you don't need to engage with them physically. But if somebody attacks you, then, this does not have anything to do with our lesson, but, I don't think you should be a punching bag either. You should defend yourself.
Yeah, that takes it to another level because that's not what they're not gonna listen to you, but that's obviously not.
Right. Yeah.
You can't let someone hurt you, but that wasn't the person that you were supposed to go after and bring it to age anyway.
Right.
You have lots of people with lots of opinions out there about all kinds of things, color of your skin to who your football team is to everything. They're gonna take it to another level.
Right.
That has no point.
Right.
And when it comes to that being that physical, if you need to get physical about this, not today.
Sometimes they don't.
Yeah, you're gonna
give
have
you
to
a
find
chance
somebody
even to say that, you wanna be physical about it, sometimes they just attack out of nowhere, and that's when you're dealing with somebody that's just totally not well in the mind.
Oh, yeah,
and
right.
You have to just like,
Run.
yeah, it's either you run or either you, some people are just going to
Sure.
fight, they're going
Right.
to, because they don't wanna be attacked, and some people just don't understand, you will get persecuted for being Jesus believers, for
Right.
being believers.
Right.
You're gonna get, there will be people who do that.
Right.
So like, that's the question within itself. What happens when you just attacked simply because of what you believe in? You don't have to throw the first blow all the time, and you don't have to have attitude or anything.
Right.
Some people are just that way in the mind.
Right. One thing we need to be aware of when we're having conversations about religion is that the gospel is offensive to a lost world. It just is. To tell somebody that they're a wicked sinner and they're on their way to hell is offensive to people. That's the gospel message.
I
Is
don't
that,
know why they would think that.
well, right. But what we need to remember as ambassadors of the Christ, it's incumbent upon us not to be offensive. So don't add to the
Shouldn't be
offense.
the first words out of our mouth, right?
Right.
Like
So-
the guy that told me I was going to hell when I was like 14, 15. 'Cause he asked me, he said, oh, you go to church? Yeah, we're Catholic, I'm like going to hell.
Right. Yeah, I actually have a friend, and I'm thankful for his heart to share the gospel with other people, but I'm not really thrilled about the way he does that. And he does that by saying, hey, let me ask you a question. Have you ever told a lie?
Whoa.
And most people, if they're honest, will say, yeah. Have you ever stolen anything? Yeah. Well, have you ever hated someone? Okay, well, the Bible says if you've hated somebody, then you're a murderer. So you're a lying, thieving murderer. You just admitted to it. And because of that, you're doomed to hell.
Oh my goodness.
It-
Well, that sure would get people's attention, wouldn't it?
right. So I could see something like that, an approach like that being very offensive to somebody and somebody wanting to swing on you.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be the way I wanted a conversation, because to me, it's about a relationship too.
Yeah.
You need to have a relationship with somebody.
I think I would be so shocked that I just,
Right.
That man is
Deer-
taking risks.
deer in the
He is,
head,
he is.
deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
But that's kind of the Ray Comfort mindset, that's
Right.
what Ray Comfort does. And if that works, and it does work, some people have come to know the Lord and Savior through that kind of conversation. I think that it's offensive to most people. And that's not the way I want to do it. I would much rather start a much more relaxed conversation, by asking questions.
They're in the shock.
Right. And the question I would not ask is, do you know that you're a wicked sinner on your way to hell?
Yeah, well, the first words out of a lot is, are you saved? Well, I go to church. What church? Oh, well, yeah, you're going.
Right. Well, and this is another thing I harp on too, is sometimes we Christians use Christianese and asking somebody if they're saved in a lost world. And, when I was coming up, if you asked somebody if they were saved, they probably would have an idea what you were talking about. These days, people are so unchurched that they're not going to have any idea what you're asking them. So using a term like, have you been washed by the blood? They're going to think that you're some psychopath yourself.
Yeah.
So, we need to be cautious about the language we use when we're talking to other people about Christ. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So how would you guys do that? How would you start a conversation? By using the tactical questions?
About the person, like whoever said that they saw something on them.
Right.
That's a way to get into it.
Right. So let me give you, all right. So you guys are the customer and I'm the guy in the, behind the photography counter. And this actually happened to me one time. So we're talking, you guys are here to buy a good or service. And as I'm ringing it up, I say something like, I'm sorry this is taking so long. I had a rough night last night. I was out partying all night long. I probably deserve to go to hell, and I don't know if there is a hell, but if there is one, I'm probably going there because of my night last night. How would you guys use a tactical question to start a conversation with me?
So does that mean that you believe in God? You believe in hell?
Well, I said, I don't know if there is a hell or not, but if there is one, I'm probably going there.
I think I would say, why do you think you're going to hell? Okay. What was he doing again? Like, what is he?
He's just rambling.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay. I thought
It's last night.
as I'm ringing up your, and you guys probably have heard people like this give you more information than you ever asked for.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I'm ringing you up for this good or service, whatever the case may be, I say under my breath that, last night was just such a crazy night, and I don't know if there's a hell, but if there is one, I probably belong there.
Maybe.
I would say, what do you mean by that? Why do you feel like you're going to hell?
Or would you like to know how you can not go to hell?
What happened with their night to make you feel like you may be going to hell? I'm still there. I'm more like the cartel. I got 50 million questions, and I started investigating on why somebody said something, but I think it's just how it has to be for me, practicing more on a spiritual level, more so than, it's not even being nosy. Sometimes I just want to know why people feel the way they do, why they say what they say, why they think what they think, why they feel what they feel. And it's not even really to judge them. I just really want to know why. And to see and just, ask God, what should I say? Or the Holy Spirit lead me in what to say to this person or whatnot. Because back then I probably would have been like, okay, why are you why are you talking about, but at some point or another, if you're saying you're saved, you're a Christian, you have to respond differently and you have to do differently. It can't be offensive. It can't be with attitude, because sometimes people mistake my firmness for an attitude. It's not. It's just that I'm very firm when I speak, and I may come out sometimes like I may be yelling at you, but I have a loud voice, and that is how I've always spoken. And it just goes back to when I was having that innocent, gentle voice. It's like, speak louder. why are you, it was a thing where you get yelled at, for you just being so soft spoken. They want you to speak loud, do this, do that,
Right.
and without giving the added on to, when I say speak loud, speak where you can be understood, or whatever the case may be. So it's been a roller to have something instilled in you for so long, and now you're learning the correct way to go about doing it and
Right.
stuff. And it's not something that happened overnight, and people
Oh, no.
just be like, "Quick, cold turkey, you can just stop." Quote, some things you just cannot.
Well, yeah, we've years and years and years and years of practice doing it the way that we're doing it. So yeah, it's going to take some time to
So
do
you
that.
said this was an incident from your own experience.
Mhm.
So what did you say to him?
Well,
I like what you
Or
said.
did you just say,
Mhm.
I
yeah,
like what you said, you want to know how you can not go there.
yeah. Well,
Like what she said, well, why do you think that?
my response is, it sounds like you know what hell is, if there is a hell. Sounds like a bad place. Is that someplace you want to go? And if the answer to that is no, then would you like to know how you don't go there?
Yeah.
And have a conversation.
Would it be fair
I
to
mean,
say
that was a
what
pretty-
hell is? Like, what do you think hell is? What is hell defined to you?
I think that would be perfectly legitimate. Hey, if hell is real, what is it? And if what you're telling me that hell is really as bad as it sounds, do you really want to go there? Or do you want to take a chance on that happening? There's a lot of great questions you could ask.
that was a pretty easy in,
Right, because it was something
because
kind of,
the person had already acted like he had thought about hell.
well,
You know.
I don't know if this person had specifically, but hell is a spiritual concept.
Right.
So, if somebody opens the door spiritually,
Because-
it's easier to walk into a
Right.
spiritual conversation. Sometimes it's a little harder to navigate.
Right. If they hadn't said any,
Right. But that's why you need to have conversations with people and have a relationship with people.
So what happened, I'm curious, because of course I'm starting with the psychiatry question.
Right.
Sounds like you had a really tough night. Would you like to talk about it?
Right.
Which takes longer,
Right.
but I mean, how much of a conversation did you end up having with the guy?
It was very short,
Okay.
and I wish it would have been longer, but I was in a
because you
hurry.
didn't have these tactics then, right?
No, it was just one of those things where, and I am actually mad at myself for not taking more time with this individual.
You lost an opportunity.
I did. I absolutely did. And it's something I regret because this person,
You would be sitting here at this table with us now.
no, this was in Illinois. This was a long time ago.
I know.
So
I'm teasing
I'm
you.
hoping with my interaction with him, I did put a stone in his shoe and he sought out more answers to that. I don't know if anything I said to him had any impact on him,
Right.
but when somebody and to learn from my mistake that if somebody opens a door like that, take advantage of it. Whatever else you got going on is probably not near as important as this person's soul.
Yeah.
So take the opportunities that God gives you.
I'm thinking if he's behind the counter, he has work to do and there's only so much of a conversation that you can have, but it wouldn't be a bad thing to ask him if he'd like to talk after work or at another
Mhm.
time that you would like to answer some of these
Yeah,
questions.
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
To keep the door open.
Right. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing I should have.
Yeah.
It was an opportunity to start a relationship and I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Might not have been meant at that time.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, but
But maybe you put
Because
that,
anything
maybe you
God
put that
has
stone,
for you,
that stone in his shoe.
He has for you, so it may not have been meant at that time, which is why you're at today, so you can tell it's us.
Right.
And we can go out and we can,
right.
learn those tactics,
Right.
but you were given another opportunity and here you are.
Yeah, I have been thankfully been given other opportunities, but any opportunity that God gives you, take full advantage of it.
Yeah.
Take full advantage of it. And again, I was telling you about David Wood. When I first became familiar with David Wood, it was through a Muslim who had become a Christian, and his name was Nabil Qureshi. Nabeel Qureshi was the kind of person who liked to just argue with Christians. He loved to figure out who the Christians were and argue with them about their faith and see if he could undermine their faith. He just loved doing that. He went to a school where most everybody claimed to be a Christian, and nobody would talk to him or share their faith with him. And he said it was for one of two reasons. Either they didn't really believe what they thought they believed, or they didn't love him enough to try to have a conversation with him or share the gospel with him. And that was a condemnation, I thought, of all of those Christian students. So don't be afraid to share your faith. Make conversation. So Nabeel went into David's room. I think they were roommates or became roommates, and David was reading a Bible. And Nabeel's question to David was, you don't really believe that thing, do you? Did you know over time that's been changed thousands of times? And what did David do? He used his great tactical question. Tell me what you mean by that. And from there, it developed into a relationship where over the next, I think, year and a half, they met weekly and talked about all of these questions. And Nabeel asked him the hardest questions he could come up with, and Dave had answers for all of them.
Wow.
And there was a lot that went into that. But over the course of about a year and a half, slowly Nabeel found that the questions that he had been asking about Christianity, he had never applied those same questions to Islam. And when he did apply that same criteria to Islam, Islam could not pass the test.
Wow.
So he had to leave that and he had to come to be a Christian. It's just a really fascinating story. But David was the right person at the right time and allowed Nabeel to ask him all of these questions, and using the tactical approach,
And
they
he
just,
wasn't a steamroller with him.
he was a steamroller with everybody else,
Yeah.
but David was equipped to answer the questions.
Yeah.
And even when he wasn't, he went and got the answers and came back. And just over the period of time,
Wow.
Nabeel, not only did he come to faith, but he became an apologist himself and went out and witnessed to Muslims himself.
Wow. But he was a new Paul.
Yeah.
Like Paul.
Absolutely.
I mean, it just amazes me how he split,
Paul, absolutely.
well, he was still a Jew. He still went to the temple. He did all the Mosaic rule things. But he knew that the Messiah had already come, whereas the other Jews in the temple didn't believe that.
Right. But it was it was that testimony that he had up until that point that made him such a powerful witness to the other
Yeah.
Jews. Because he even said it himself.
Yeah, he said it
I'm
over and
a
over
Jew of
again.
Jews. Nobody can be as Jewish as me.
A Pharisee,
Right.
which is like
Right.
the highest.
Right.
Yeah.
So he had all the answers to their questions because that's the way he came up.
Yeah.
Just like Nabeel had been brought up in Islam. All right. So I know we're out of time, but I want to do a couple of things real quick on final reflections. 2 Timothy 2:15 says, the more you seek in, wait, I'm sorry. Is that right? Best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. So in the Marine Corps, they say the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle. So again, this comes to practice these things, try them with each other, have conversations with each other. Do role plays, kind of like we did here. And with somebody who's friendly, some people aren't friendly and you don't really want to try it with them until you get good at it. So one of the things we need to do is know your Bible well enough to give an accurate answer for the faith that's in you. And this is where 2 Timothy 2:15 comes in. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who is not ashamed, but rightly handling the word of truth. So study these tactics. If you haven't bought the book already, I would still recommend that you grab it and go through it. Again, there's a lot more information in the books than what we've been able to cover in these 6 weeks. Become familiar with how they work, know when to use them and how to initiate them, and then push yourself to go beyond your comfort zone. Be courageous. begin to mix it up with others before you feel adequately prepared. And, there's no other way to do it than to take that first step. Jump in and start. You'll learn best by immediately using the information that you have gained over these past 6 weeks. And you may take a few hits along the way, but you'll also be able to give a few back in a good way. You'll be able to learn what the other side has to offer, which really isn't much. Don't be discouraged by outward appearances. Again, it may feel like somebody's winning or beating you over the head with an argument. Take those lessons, learn them, and then come back with better answers next time. And then we need to make sure that we live out our virtues and be a good ambassador. And here's how str.org sums up being an ambassador. They say, first is knowledge. An ambassador must have some basic knowledge. Minimally, he must know the character, mind, and purpose of his king. Second is wisdom. Knowledge must be deployed in a skillful way. There's an element of wisdom, a tactical and artful diplomacy that makes the message persuasive. And then character, because an ambassador brings himself along with everything he does. His personal maturity and individual virtue can either make or break the message. So we need to make sure that we're living these things out. We need to be able to represent Christ in a winsome and attractive way. And you are God's own ambassador. And that's, I don't know that we always take that seriously. I think that should weigh on us a little, knowing that we represent Christ to our friends, to our family members, when we're out in public doing the things that we do, when we're driving. I don't think my daughter was representing Christ accurately when she was saying, I got the right of way.
Well,
I'm gonna.
she didn't run over the person, so.
No one died.
I assume
But-
I got a bird.
Yeah, no, she didn't, thankfully.
She didn't stick her head out and say expletives deleted. did she?
No, there was no cussing, thankfully. Yeah.
It could have been worse.
Wait, I'm confused. Did your daughter say, what did she say? What did she say? I thought you said it was the other lady.
The other lady was coming this direction and we were going this direction. And I said,
There's not enough room.
honey, light of my life, darling, I don't think there's enough room for the two of you in this space. And she goes, I was here first. I have the right
Oh,
of
your
way.
daughter was
Yeah.
saying, oh, I thought it was.
And this woman was on the phone and she was just,
She pressed her right of way, even if,
yeah,
and thank goodness your car sucked, because you sucked in really hard.
yeah, right. Yeah.
And your car got skinnier.
So this is just a reminder, be prayed up at all times.
Yes.
Okay. So speaking of that, Greg's Ambassador Krieg, and you can find this on their website, is always be ready. An ambassador is alert for chances to represent Christ and will not back away from a challenge or an opportunity. And again, this is one thing that I wasn't ready for, to be ready when this gentleman said this thing to me.
Yeah.
Because I should have spent more time, and it was an opportunity where I could have probably spoke more into his life. And I don't know if he would have been receptive. I don't know. But because I was scurrying off and being late already, which is typical for me. Next up is be tactical. An ambassador adapts to each unique person and situation, maneuvering with wisdom to a challenge and to challenge bad thinking, presenting the truth in an understandable and compelling way. So every situation is different, and hopefully you've seen that in some of the things that we've done, because there's all kinds of different people out there. All kinds of people have all kinds of different opinions, and there's no one right way to handle every person. We're all different. Next is to be honest. An ambassador is careful with the tactics and will not misrepresent another's view or overstate his own case or understate the demands of the gospel. So when Datron was with us a week or two ago, he was talking about the straw man. Sometimes when we're representing somebody else's view, we have a tendency to make an easy target out of what they're putting up. Don't do that. Use the steel man view. Use the hardest form of their argument and then show them where those weaknesses are. And again, that's one of those things where it's going to take work and thoughtfulness. Be dependent. An ambassador knows that effectiveness requires joining his best efforts with God's power. There's nothing we can do in and of ourselves. Remember, you cannot save anyone.
Yeah.
That is the job of the Holy Spirit. What you're called to do is be ready with an answer and do what he's told you to do. Okay. Next is be reasonable. An ambassador has informed convictions and not just feelings. They give reasons, they ask questions, they seek answers, and will not be stumped by the same challenge twice. And yeah, you guys have heard that, fool me once, shame on me. No, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah. So if you stump me with the same question twice, that's my bad. It should only happen one time. And then you'll go back and get the answers to that. Next is be clear. An ambassador is careful with language and will not rely on Christian lingo, something that we've talked about, nor gain unfair advantage by resorting to empty rhetoric. Be humble. An ambassador is provisional in his claims, knowing that his understanding of truth is fallible, and he will not press a point beyond what evidence allows. Some people will try to do that. Some people will say, this is where I'm standing. The earth is 1 billion years old. Well, how do you know that? Well, I don't know, but it is. Doggone it. That's the way it's going to be. Next is be patient. An ambassador won't quarrel, but will listen in order to understand. Yeah, capital P with the patience. And then with gentleness, seek to respectfully engage those who disagree. Then be fair. An ambassador is sympathetic and understanding towards others and will acknowledge the merits of contrary views. And then be attractive. An ambassador will act with grace, kindness, and with good manners. He will not dishonor Christ in his conduct. So that is the ambassador's creed.
Wow, it's a tall order.
It is. It absolutely is. But if we don't aim high,
Yeah.
and we should. All right. So thank you guys for your attendance and your participation. I hope this was helpful and that you will use it and engage with the world outside you. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I know I